of my work has been dedicated to celebrating indigenous knowledge, including resisting the patenting and piracy of it. The Taro issue was one. We fought many, many cases, and reclaiming the integrity of our knowledge. And yet out there we have a crazy system that pretends to be knowledge, even pretends to be the only kind of legitimate knowledge, and puts a label science. All that science is, the meaning of science is to know. So any knowledge is science. And yet they've created a special sociological category that only a certain kind of people do science and only a certain kind of people have knowledge. So within this system where there's this hugely reductionist, mechanistic knowledge and abstract knowledge dominating, and then there's all these hidden knowledges waiting to burst forth to create the possibility of a future, because that reductionist knowledge has only the possibility of an annihilation of the future. What the task is while it's exactly the same task as creating food sovereignty in Hawaii through ecological agriculture, through restoring the soil and creating small farms. While we do that, finding a way to get rid of the agrochemical industry. And you have to do both. In a similar way, while all the indigenous values, wisdom, knowledge is recognized, celebrated, learned from, we have to take elements of it to communicate, to show the shallowness of that which dominates. And I'll give you just two little examples of how we've done it in agriculture. So the category in industrial farming that's used is called yield. Oh, these crops have more yield. The other day, Bill Gates was on TV or was on a video pouring out corn from Africa and then corn from the Midwest. But the Africans don't only grow corn. They'll have beans, they'll have fruits, they'll have all kinds of things. But outside corn, nothing's talked about. So what we started to do is assess the biodiversity. And then we could show that industrial agriculture is a very pathetic agriculture, produces very little at very high cost. More recently, what we've done is, this is the sort of educating the policymakers, we just took all the costs of externalization. For example, even though these companies aren't telling you what they're spraying, there are studies done on the costs of pesticide damage to the environment, to the public health. Particularly a person called David Pimentel has done these costings in a big way. So we put that together. And we did a billing. And I sent it to our agriculture minister, who was so shocked he wrote the foreword to our book on the real costs. And we were able to show that $1.2 trillion is the damage because of chemicals. And we aren't even taking full cost, We're taking what few things we know. But even the few things far outweigh. It's like that Chipko lesson. Cutting a tree, which is counted as growth, is causing so much damage that it's just not worth it. That the real function of the trees is to stand. And the real function of indigenous cultures is to build the bridge to the future. By sharing and bringing the values to correct the falseness, the abstractness, the unreliability, and the misguidedness that's in the dominant system. If you take little elements of this system, you find that there's nothing. And one of the beautiful phrases on Aloha was to be real. That system can't be real. There's nothing real it deals with. It deals with unreality and fictions and then destroys. So those are the ways while we build a whole, we communicate the few messages that a narrow, shallow, reductionist mind can understand. but we don't reshape our lives on that basis. You couldn't talk of 5 companies controlling seed. Today you can. The second way in which they try and control the food system is through the issue of owning seed and making it illegal for people to have their own seed. And the third way in which they control the food system is imposing regulations and laws on safety, on food that is safe. Yeah? So in India, the advertisements put out about how cooking with the hands is dangerous and machines are safe. In Brazil, they made the cutting of chicken at home illegal. There's so many, in Europe, local farmers' markets were made illegal, but the French farmers rose in revolt. So we'll continue to sell our stuff. And they do it very cleverly. They create standards that can never be met. So in the case of farmers' markets, it was if you don't have a fridge and a running water, where you're selling your vegetables, you can't sell vegetables. So these are strategies of concentration and monopoly. It's not a miracle. The fact that the whole world's been integrated, not through the life forces of the earth, not through our planetary solidarity, but through the market and profits and global corporations and their control. The two issues of the last 2 decades, as this machine has just grown, that are deep tragedies in India. The first is the fact that when Monsanto came in illegally into India, and I had to sue them in the Supreme Court of India, the commercial introduction of GMOs got delayed. But the only reason the GMOs are being pushed is these corporations want to own the seed. And they want to collect royalties from seed. That's the only thing. The fact that their seeds require these toxics and poisons is like collateral. The objective is collecting revenues, royalty, and profits from seed. And we did a rough calculation in terms of what are the technology. You're here on behalf of Monsanto. There's a wonderful cartoon that's circulating on Twitter where Obama's walking through the door and he's got a dog, and the dog has Obama on the leash. Yeah? And our Prime Minister is saying, "You're very welcome without your pet." So issues of home rule are what brought us freedom. They're going to bring us freedom in the future. Chipko, my first engagement, we had no, because it was not defined from outside, it was so totally defined from the mountains and our villages. Issues of social justice, environmental protection, indigenous culture were all one. They were not separate. We never had to try and make an effort to say, how do we bring the environmental movement together with the indigenous movement? Because in
right now, because so much stuff happening in the Hawaiian community, so much information is coming out that we never had. Yeah, like I graduated in 1963. There was no overthrow in 1963. So all of us coming out of the educational system was coming out to be Hawaiians. That was the plan. And my parents bought into that and convinced us that in order for us to survive, we had to learn the American way, otherwise we're not going to survive. So Kamehameha School was part of that, and all of the schools was part of that. So today, we have so much information, and we're getting to realize that what we was learning in schools was all lies. So now we stay inside this turmoil like, well, what do you believe? What do you do? And what is happening is that not only are we all different on different islands because we have different ways of solving problems, different ways of doing things, But we're different in so many ways about what school you went to and what you would learn. So for us to come together is not an easy thing. It's been a really uphill battle. In the 1970s, it was like, going to be holidays, going to be holidays, going to be holidays. In 1970, the thing went kind of, and out of Maui came Kaho'olawe, and the thing went, ooh. And we started talking Hawaiian this, Hawaiian that, Hawaiian this, get the language back, all the musicians. I mean, we was all listening to Hawaiian music. It wasn't Javaian music, it was Hawaiian music we were listening to. So the thing went like this, and we started to come up. At that point in the 70s, we was at Iolani Palace, 20,000 Hawaiians from one fence to the other one. Nobody was mad with nobody. Everybody was hugging. Because it's almost like we first, like, oh, how's it, no. And then as we started to go up, all the different halaus started coming out, the different canoe clubs started coming out, the different this, the different that, because we was all different. And we had a hard time come back together again. So what is happening?
We don't even know, as I said, we don't even know what pesticides they're using here. We don't even know the effects of the combination of those pesticides here upon the land or on the water. And we got to be a lot more akamai. Because I can tell you this, these corporate entities, these multinational corporations, they don't give a crap about us and the people. They never have. And so it's our responsibility. And mahalo to people like Shiva and others who come and share. It's really our kuleana at this point on to make sure we should know every chemical that's going into the land. We should know what the effects of the chemicals would be. We need to know that. Because if we really love this place and love our children and our great-grandchildren, we got nothing, we can't gamble with the future of this place. It's our kuleana to make sure, as I said, 10 generations from now, this place is even better than we have it today. So anyway, Brother Keamoko is up here, and we'll maybe talk about his talk.